Hello guys, welcome to another interesting Django tutorial. In this video, we are going to learn how to use Django and Celery with Docker. So if you have been coding with Python and Django for a while, I believe you must have heard of Celery or you must have used it in some of your projects. Celery is a Python package that is widely used for running background task processes. It is an asynchronous task queue based on distributed message passing. It is focused on real-time operations and for scheduling tasks that needs to run at a particular time interval. Alright, so what does all this mean? While Django is best known for its HTTP request and response workflow, there are some tasks that we do or some compilations that are done in our application that are not good fits for this normal Django request and response flow because they are time intensive, that is, it takes longer time to complete, or they are data intensive. So this long running task actually slows down our application servers and increase our website load time. So we can actually improve the performance of our application by offloading this heavy duty task from our application server to a message broker server called Worker. So this is where Celery actually comes in. Workers are Celery background based task server. Alright, so our application can have several workers that perform these heavy compilations in the background and sends the results to our applications through webhook or callback. So Celery uses what we know as a message broker to facilitate communications between our Celery worker and our web application. So messages are added to the broker, which are then processed by the workers. So on completion, these results are then passed to what we know as a result backend. Alright, so there are a lot of software or tools that we can use as a message broker and as our result backend. Popular ones are Redis, RabbitMQ, AWS, SNS. Alright, so but in this tutorial, we'll see how we're going to use Redis to as our message broker and also as our result backend. So processes that we can run in the background, example like sending an email or accessing an external API, scraping some data from an external website. Right guys, so I already have a very simple Django project set up. Nothing too much, just basically a Django project called the Celery project and a basic app called main. So nothing else, just that create a feature environment. So have a requirement of TSV file. We just have Django and we have Django environments to set up our environment variables and PySQL to run a Postgres database. We're going to be using a Postgres database. Alright, so the best way to actually implement Celery or the best way to actually set up Celery and Redis easily is using Docker. Alright, so you can actually do it without Docker. You have to install it into your operating system and set it up yourself. That is actually kind of difficult to do, especially when you're using a Windows system. It has some compatibility issues and all that, so it's actually very difficult to set up Redis on Windows and all that. So the easiest way to actually get it set up is using Docker container or Docker image. Alright, so we're going to be using Docker to set up Redis container, Celery workers, Celery bits, and even Django as well. Alright, so that's what we're going to be picking up from. So what we're going to do, we're going to add our basic requirements here, the Celery and Redis requirement package to the requirement.txt file, because Docker is going to be running this file to install all the packages that we need. So we just add them here and as well create a celery.py file inside our project directory, not the app directory, the project directory. And then now install the app already set up. Mind you, already set up a basic email configuration. I believe you already know how to do this. I'm using Matrap, which is a testing email server that you can use to test email. It's just for testing purpose. You can't use that in production. So that's actually easy. You can use any email backend you want to use, SMTP server you want to use. So we're going to see how we can use Celery to send emails first and some other kind of tasks that we can perform with Celery. So these are already set up, so don't get caught up. So that's that. And what else? We already have a basic template set up, and we also have our main app here. So that's all we are done. So let's quickly update our requirement.txt file, add those applications that we need. So in our requirement.txt, we have Celery. We're going to add Celery 4.4.7. we're going to be using Redis 3.5.3 and Flower. All right, so Flower is a management tool to actually manage and monitor our Celery tasks, especially when sending email. All right, so we also have the Django Celery email, and also we are adding Watchdog and the PyMO. These are to build to implement auto reload whenever there is a changes. We made any changes in any part of our code to restart our Celery workers. Right, these are what they are used for. So just put these requirements softwares in your requirement TST and save it. Then in our project directory, where we have our project settings file, we just create a celery.py file. All right, so here we import some few things. We import OS, and we also import Celery. So from Celery, then we also import the Django settings from all right, so here we create a configuration for us for Celery. So we say os.env set default. Then we're going to set the. So here we add the Django settings module environment variable. All right, to our Django settings. And secondly, we need to create an app instance of Celery, and in here we need to pass the name of our project, which is DJ stored in the variable called app. Then lastly, we have to set the app instance of configure object. Here we are making a settings module configuration source. So whenever we are making any kind of settings relating to Celery, we need to prefix with the Celery keyword. That is what this next piece is all about. I'm going to say app.auto discover. Let's go task. Alright, this will actually go through every layer of our app and get any kind of task.py file inside any of our app. Alright, so auto discover tasks. This will be our settings.install apps. So any apps that is in our installed apps, it will discover the tasks there. Finally, we add the app to task bind equals true. The debug task is a sample task to check the request and runtime. So if you check the documentation, if you go to Django Celery documentation, you actually see everything there. So it's not that I'm bringing it, so you can check the documentation. All right, so you can see everything that we are doing from this place. So what we need to do next is to go to the project settings. You can see inside the project file, the init.py file is .init file. We need to bring this set of codes in there. So just grab this, simply paste, and make a edit. Let's take out this comment. All right, so we are importing the Celery module we just created as Celery_app. Here we are setting __ all equals to that app. All right, in the tuple. So that's how they did it there. All right, so that's fine. So with that out of the way, it's time for us to actually set up our Docker to spin up this Celery with the Django. So save this. So in our project root here, we can create a directory, we call it Docker. The Docker folder, we'll create another folder called local. And inside local, we create a folder called Django. Alright, so in Django, we create a file which is a Docker file. Alright, so this is where we're going to put our own Docker file. So we're going to base our Docker image on the Python, obviously. So we're going to be using the Slim Buster, and we're going to set our work directory to /app. Then after the work directory, we're going to bring in some labels, set the label for the maintenance, and the website label. These are not actually necessary anyway, but just can put there. You can decide to put that there and also leave that. Then we want to bring in the environment, the env for Python buffer. Python buffer simply means send all Python outputs to the terminal so that we can actually see what's happening in our app in real time without actually first buffering them. So that's that. So don't write bytes. It means don't convert our Python outputs bytes. Alright. Next, we bring a Postgres dependency. Alright, so we store dependencies for Python package and for Postgres dependencies and also cleanup. Alright, so these are basically these commands for that. Then next, we create a run command to update pip. Then next, we create a copy command to move in our current requirements.txt in our own local directory to the Postgres to the Docker working app directory, which is the app directory. So we're going to copy So we copy the requirement.txt here that we have to the Docker app requirement.txt. Next, we ask Docker to run the installation of the requirements.txt. And next, we create connections to our entry script and our start script. Alright, so if you don't really know much about Docker, I have a tutorial that I did earlier that was in Docker Crash Course where we really explore these things. Alright, so what we are doing here, we are actually copying our entry point script, which we'll create shortly from our Docker file. That's our Docker directory in this directory Django here. We're going to create an entry script where we're copying it to the one that's going to be inside the Docker container. So we're going to do the same thing for start script. Alright. All about Django. So what we're going to do next is we're also going to copy the shell script to run the celery worker and the celery bit, just like the way we did for our entry script, our Entrypoints script and our start script. Alright, so these are actually shell scripts. So we're going to bring the one for celery worker and celery bit. Alright, so this we are actually copying because we've not created a file yet. We create a start file inside our Docker local Django. We're going to create a repository here called celery. Let me just create that now. So inside our Docker, where we have our Django, create another folder, we'll call it celery. Alright, so in here we can create two folders. One called worker, and the second one we're going to call bits. Here you can see we are coupling whatever the stats and shell script that we're going to create shortly inside this directory to the Docker image and start_celery worker script. Alright, this script will be inside the Docker image, but we are mirroring the one in our own computer here. Alright, so we run this command, which is going to process the line ending of our Windows to a Unison line ending, and we are running the script. Alright, so those for these tools. And lastly, we need to bring on the shell script command to run the Flower. Like I said earlier, Flower is like a monitoring tool, like a web user interface where we can monitor celery activities and operations. So also bring out the script to run that also. Right, so also bring it around the flower. We're also incorporating a script called start for flower into the start flower script. All right. So what you don't need to know much about this, just write it the same way you've seen it here. It will also work. So these are basic share script and command and limits. So lastly, we create the entry point. All right. So this is the entry point. So that's all for our Docker image here. So we save this. Then while inside, we need to create the first. We have inside the Django directory. We create the entry point. No extension, just write as entry point like that. All right, that's for the entry point. Make sure it's in the right directory. All right. Similarly, we also create a start file, which is going to be for our start script. These are the scripts that we are actually pointing here, that we are copying from here. Copy the entry and copy the start. So we also need to create the one of celery worker and celery bit start script also. So inside our celery, inside the worker, we need to create a start file. That's for the worker. For the bit also similarly too. So after that, let's bring in the commands for this. So let's start with the one of these Django start script. So in here we bring in the share header for share script. Alright, so these are the share commands. What this command basically means is if for any reason our code fails, the script should exit or the script should fail, the entire script should fail. Why this? If for any reason a variable was not set, this script should stop working. So these are just basic Linux share script commands. So the one we want to run is we want to start our Django app. This is for starting Django application. So the three basic commands we want to run is make migration, and we also want to run migrate with no input, and want to run server. Alright, so these are the basic start script for Django. So that's all we need to do here. Secondly, for the entry script, we also need to bring in the share header. And similarly, we also need to bring in those share commands for error handling and fail scripts and fail pipeline. So let me bring that in. So one basic need for this entry point share script is actually to ensure that before our Django application starts, our database is ready, is up and ready. Remember, I said we're going to be using a Postgres database, so we're going to be using a Docker image for Postgres to spin up a Docker container for our Postgres database. So we want the Postgres database to be up and running and ready for connection before a Django app can start. So that's what this entry point is going to do. So we're going to bring out a simple share function here that does that. Alright, so what this function basically means is we're going to check for Postgres is ready. Alright, so we import 6, we import the Postgres ng package, and here is basically just trying to check if the Postgres can be connected. We've not set up our environment variable yet. We'll do that shortly. We are getting these ones from environment variable, which we're going to do shortly. We are checking if we can connect to this DB using the password and username that we're going to set very soon, and the host and ports. And we are checking if there's any error for some reason we couldn't connect to the database. We want these operations to fail. Alright, so it's going to wait. The Docker containers are going to wait to make sure that this Postgres container is up and running and is ready for connection before it can proceed. You can say until Postgres ready, do echo. Echo is a Linux check commands to output or print out something. If we're waiting for Postgres to become available, you sleep for some 1 seconds and done. And once Postgres is available, we echo another command by saying that Postgres is available. So that's basically what this is all about. So you just can grab this and just paste it here on your own code. So that's for this entry point. So let's quickly run through the bit start script and also the worker start script. So inside the celery worker start script, we need to also bring in the share header. And we just need to bring in this. So we're also setting the exit command for whenever there is an error and whenever the variable was failed to set. And here basically we are just putting the commands to start a celery worker, and we are using the watch module to auto restart whenever we make any changes in our project. We should auto restart the celery worker instead of us starting our celery worker manually. Whenever we make changes, we just start it for us automatically. So that's what this line of code is actually doing. It's actually watching for any changes in a file called .py file. If there's any changes, it wants to restart our celery worker. Alright, so that's what this command is all about. This is basically the project name, which is our project, which we call DJ underscore celery project. And here we are saying celery worker -a project /log level info. Alright, so that's what this command is all about. So we'll save this. Next, we go to the celery bit and start file. We're also going to do same thing, bash header, and also we're going to set those things to the exit error exit and the variable not set exit. Here we are going to also run the celery bit. Alright, so that's what this command is all about. So this should be DJ underscore celery project, which is our project name. Alright, bit -info. So we'll save this. So just like the way we set up the celery worker and celery bit, we also need to set the flower and start script also. Remember we said this flower is a monitoring tool that we can use to monitor celery operations. It's a web UI interface, very convenient for us to see what's going on with our celery worker. So we need to create inside the celery folder, we just create another folder, we'll call it flower. And inside flower, we'll create this flower start file, which we're going to put in this flower start script. So the way this script is going to be just like we have our entry script. So because we want celery workers to start first and be ready before the flower can start, because the flower is actually going to be monitoring the celery workers and what celery is doing. So celery have to be up and running first before the script can come in. So we're going to have a script like this. Right. So we have the share script heading. We also have this exit if there's any error, and exit if any variables are not being provided. And we are doing the workers underscore ready function is going to check if celery, sorry, this should be DJ. If celery -a inspect pink, that celery has started, we are testing if celery has started by sending the pink, and then it's going to wait to echo first. If celery is not working, it's not up and running, echo and celery worker is not available, sleep for a minute, for a second, done. Then once the celery is available, echo celery is now available. Alright. So that's for the celery flower script. So once you have yours like this, we save this. So what we need to do next is to set up our environment variable, because we are using so many environment variables here that are not yet set. So in our base and directory here we have our manage.py, we're just going to create a .env Alright, we are using Django environment. We added it to our installed app already. So this is the Django environment. This is what we're going to be using to set up our environment variable. Alright, so once we have this is where we're going to place in our environment variables. So let's head into our settings.py file so I can set up this Django environment for environment variables so I can read our environment variables. So we're going to first of all import environment, which we're going to call env, and this is going to equals the environment.environment. Alright, so here we're going to use the env.env.read underscore here. We want to read the .env. Alright, so it's going to be reading our environment variable from this very file which we already have in our base directory here. So that's what this is all about. So once we have that, we can basically set our environment variables like this. So we grab this, we can copy that and then bring in by saying env brackets, then the variable name by saying secret key. Alright, so why inside our environment variable we're gonna have the secret underscore key, but it's not gonna be like this. You need to remove the quote and just remove the quote, and it should just be the secret key like this. Then second value we can our debug cancel it from our environment variable. Then also we're going to have an environment variable for the alert host, and also we need to bring in the environment variable for Celery broker and Celery backend. So we're going to say Celery brokers, we're making it Redis, and the Celery backend also should be Redis. So this environment variable should be brought in here. So save this. We also in our settings, we need to read them. Then in here we're gonna say environment. This is supposed to be a list. So env.list. Yeah. Alright. So let's see if any other important part of it that we need to bring into our environment variable. We'll also do that also. And then for the Celery workers and the Celery brokers, we can put those on here. Let's bring those on here. Let's say the Celery broker URL, which is going to be our Celery broker and Celery results and backend. Remember, while we are using this Celery as a prefix, we set it in our Celery.py file as a namespace here. Alright, so we also need to bring set up our Postgres database, because right now we are having SQLite. So we're going to bring the environment variable for Postgres and all that. Alright, so that's what we're going to bring. So we can comment this out. And then once we bring this in, we see we are setting some environment variables for the engine, the name, and all that. So these environment variables, we're going to bring them in to the env file database with Docker. So we're going to spin up a Docker container for Postgres database. So you don't really, so our engine is going to be django.db.backend.postgres. And secondly, we need to set the names and all that. So let me just grab, for me to save them, just grab and bring them in. Alright, so here we are setting the database, the Postgres database name. Now these names are just my choice. You can use any name of your choice. We are setting password because these names are going to be the one we are going to pass into the Docker image. Alright, so we can just set it to our own name. So we are using the Django_db. We are using the username of our choice, and we are setting the password. But the host name, which is very important, this is going to be our Postgres service that we're going to be spinning up in our Docker Compose file. Alright, so we're setting up our Docker Compose file shortly. That is where we're going to set up all the containers, right? Right now, we're actually using a 4 or 3 service. We're using the Postgres service, we're using the Redis service, we're also using the Celery service. So we create a file. I'm going to call it Docker Compose. You don't really have to call it Docker Compose. The important thing is it has to be a YAML file. But by convention, we use the Docker Compose.yaml. Alright. So here we're going to bring in our services. Start by giving the version we want. You can use 3.8, that's fine. Then let's define our services. And the very first service for our Django app, so let's just do that. So be careful with the dictation. So I'm using just one tab. So I'm going to say web, calling it any name I want. You can choose any name. I'm using web to represent our Django app. Then define the build, just one tab. Define the build. Then after we define the context. It's going to be the current folder. Then we declare our Docker file. This should be part of where our Docker file is. Alright, so that's docker/local/django/ our Docker file. That's the Docker file we just created there. That we can give our container a name. And using a container name, you can call it any name you want. We say Django Celery demo. Here we can here we have our command, which is going to be our start script, and we have our volume, which is going to bump whatever changes that we're going to make in our current working directory to the app directory, which is the app in our Docker image, so that there will be consistencies and persistencies with our workflow. Then we're exposing these ports. There's the ports that we want to fetch our Django app from. So here we are setting our environment variable and the dependencies, which is going to be in our PostgreSDB and our Redis and broker message broker. Alright, that's for the web service, which is our Django app. So let's create for the other service, which is going to be for DB. Obviously, this is going to be for our database. So we're going to choose an image for database. You can see the consistency. We have web now. We are defining for our DB. Also, DB service, we're going to use a Postgres image of 14 pan. Alright. Then we're going to have a container name. Alright. Then we're going to set our volume. Alright. So the volume, which is going to be for persistent data. Alright. So we have that. Then we need to set our environment variable. Alright, so for the Postgres environment variable, we're bringing a Postgres name, which is coming from my env. That's our environment variables. Alright, so after that, we need to set the port. So we want to create a port. Alright, so that's for our Postgres service. Next, we need to create for the Redis service also. We have a Redis, because we're still going to be using a Redis container from Docker Hub. Sorry, a Redis image from Docker Hub. So for the Redis, we're going to use the Redis image. Alright, so that's that. So we're using the external image from Docker Hub. So that's for that. Another service we need is the Celery worker. Alright, Celery worker service. This is going to have the build. Then I'm going to have the Docker file, which is going to be pointing to our own Docker file, because our Docker file is for Django is the one that is going to start our Celery worker. To start our Celery worker, which is going to be our start, that's Celery worker. Remember, that's what we defined here. So if we check our Docker file here, and we're starting a Celery worker, we are starting this start Celery worker. So that's the script to start it. So we can give it a container name if we want. Then we'll bring in the volume. Then after the volume file, which is going to be the .env. And we need to set our depends on. What does this depends on? So we want our Postgres service to be up and running before we can start Celery worker. Alright. So that's that for solid worker. And next service we need to create is the celery bit. Alright, so we need to create a service for the celery bit also. Then our command env and depends on, so I'm going to just grab that and put them here. Alright, so let's just create an indentation volume the env file, environment variable file, and it depends on also the redis and the db. So similarly, we're also going to create a service for celery for flower, which is our monitoring tool for celery. So I'm just going to bring that in. Let me not waste your time with typing. I'm going to specify the build just the same way we did for celery bit and celery worker. Docker file is pointing to the same Docker file. And we are using the start flower command. Remember, we set that here. Start flower command. Alright, that's the script that is going to run. The other way we can specify our volume, and we just have only one volume, which is going to be the Postgres and data. That's this volume here. Alright, so we're not using that volume. So that's all about our Docker Compose for now. Alright, so let's save every file and then check if we're missing anything. So let me check the environment variable and make sure everything is supplied accordingly and it's up and running. So we can start our containers now and see if everything works fine. Alright. And lastly, before we run our Docker containers, we need to create a .get-ignore. Sorry, not .get-ignore, Docker ignore. It's all the files and folder that we want our Docker command build to ignore. So I'm just going to paste them. You can actually Google them and see Docker ignore for Django. So we're just going to paste this here. So after that, we just save that once we have that. So for you to actually be able to run Docker, you must have Docker installed on your laptop. It's very easy to install it. I said if you can check online, you see the guidelines on how to get Docker installed for different operating systems, whether you're using Windows or Mac. But I already have Docker installed already. Heading over to our terminal. Okay. I run our Docker commands, so we can say Docker compose up -- build -d in the dash mode. And we also want to remove offer. Alright, so let's run it. Make sure you have your internet connection. So this will actually take up some time to build. So once we click run, oh, that's true. So let me paste in correct, and there's a typo there. It's ought to be off and alright. So once we hit that, additional property flower is not allowed. So root additional property flower is not allowed. Okay, that means there's an issue with our Docker Compose file. Let me quickly debug. You can see what's going on. I see the issue. The issue is with our indentation. We made an error. You can see the indentation is, we have service after service. We have to tab one more time to get web. So that's what I said. You should be careful with your indentation. The database service is in line. Redis is in line. Celery worker is in line. But celery bit and flower are out of line. We just need to tap them just one more time. Alright, so that was the reason for our error. So we just tap this one more time. And also for the flower, we need to tap it one more time. Try it one more time. Try it again, and it's pulling our images from Docker up, and you see some already exist. So I already have some of these images in my system. Okay, I need to actually clear up my error. Respond of demo. Oh, my internet connection is also having issues. So some of the images are already on my system. Redis error, we're getting Redis error. Okay. I think I just need to clear up some of these Docker images. I need to clean. All right. Trying to pull Redis, pulling the DB. Some of the containers already exist fine. It's actually working now. It's building now. I believe it was my internet connection. That's why it was having handshake. It will actually take up some time for it to actually build up a container. So I'm going to pause the video. Once the build is complete, I'll come back to it. Build is complete. Docker desktop. Let's check our containers. And we can see we have 6 containers. We have 6 running containers. If we open it, we see our PostgreSQL is running, Celery Bit is running, our Django application is running, Celery Worker. You can see Redis and Flower. All right, let's check if we have any errors by heading back and just check the logs by saying docker compose logs to see if we have any issues. All right, this gives us the log. We have a database system is ready to accept connections. All right, I think everything seems okay. Let's see if the Django application is running fine. Okay, it's fine. We can see our Django application started. That's cool. And let's check for Celery connected. Okay, I think everything's fine now. Let's try and see if we can get R7. Okay, fine. If you were not able to see your Flower, you know that Celery was not set up correctly. This is the monitoring tools for Celery brokers and tasks. So there's no task processing yet. All right, so everything is working fine. I think we are good. So we've been able to set up Celery with Django using Docker. All right, so I'll end this tutorial here because I don't want it to get too long. For this video, we're able to set up Celery with Django using Docker. All right, so we're able to spin up some several containers and we have Flower and everything's running fine. So in our next video, we'll see how we can start making asynchronous tasks in the background, how we can start using Celery to do different things in our Django application. See you guys in the next video.